morning, guys. Hope you're doing well. Today, I want to talk about this question of, you know, I'm dating someone who's not over their ex. What should I do? So, for some context, basically, the other day I was catching up with a friend, and she said, I've been casually dating someone for 3 months. We've never put any labels like exclusivity on anything up to this point. But now I'm getting to the point where I'm developing an emotional connection. The other day I asked him if he would want to more seriously date. He says he's been having a great time with me, but is not ready to seriously date. Um, the main reason being he's still not over his ex. They dated for a couple years, so I get that it still weighs on him. And just for context, it's been 6 months since they broke up. He's been very kind in the process. He's openly told me, do whatever you need to do. Cut me off if you need to, or if you want to continue to casually see each other, we can as well. Um, he says he's trying to figure things out, through therapy and things like that. And should things get better mentally, he'd be down to try and be in a serious relationship. Um, he's just open about not being sure if that'll actually happen anytime soon, and doesn't want to hurt me. I'm not sure what to do. How should I handle this? Obviously, this is a tough situation. The first thing I would say is really important is to get clarity on the healing process after the breakup. And I would really hone in on the question, did they take time, to take a breather from dating, enough time after they broke up, or did they kind of rush into dating pretty soon afterwards? Just because I think a lot of people make the mistake of dating too soon after a breakup when they haven't healed. And so in those cases, a lot of the romantic interactions that they have, or sexual interactions that they have, come out of missing their ex. Hence the term the rebound comes from that. Instead of being in a healthy mindset, kind of healed from their last relationship, and ready should it come for someone to come into their life. Again, this is a tangent, but just for anyone who's gone through a breakup recently, until you're at a healthy point, please don't date someone. I know it sucks taking a breather, being alone, especially after having been in a relationship. But you'll thank yourself a lot more, because by not healing, you're just prolonging the healing process, even though you don't see it. Because ultimately you will realize you're not ready to let someone in if you're not healed, and therefore you're eventually going to have to get healed at some point for that to happen. Going back to my friend, though, just off of the little facts that I know, hearing that he broke up with his ex 6 months ago, and that you guys have been kind of seeing each other for 3 months, to me means he only took 3 months to himself and started getting back on the dating apps for a relationship that he was in for a couple years. Not sure if that's the healthiest behavior. So if I were you, I would kind of be honest and communicate to them that, I think you need to take time away from dating to work on yourself and kind of heal from that. Just because, if he doesn't feel ready for the emotional commitment now, continuing to casually date people isn't the solution to get him to that healthy mindset. You know, and so, if after you communicate this, he continues to, casually date or kind of rejects your offer, then I think you need to move on at that point. It's clear that you have an emotional attachment, and casually dating him, while it may satisfy emotional or sexual needs for now, is only going to hurt when you eventually, one of you has to cut it off. Um, I think if after you communicate this, he's open to trying that, I think that's a good sign because he values you and sees that there, could be long term potential in you. But again, though, even in this period, I'd continue to have limited communication, as much as you can limit it, and seeing him in person, because I think it's really important for him to take this time to heal and not be affected by any love interests from outside, which again might be masking him not healing. Um, you know, Regardless of how you handle your communication, if this is the case, understand it. You're still in a tough position because there's no timetable of how much time it'll take him or if or when he'll be healed and ready. And so, what I'd say to you here is just kind of, give yourself grace and remind yourself there are no right answers. There's a possibility that you wait and he gets healed and you guys end up starting a relationship, or he gets healed and he never texts you back. No one knows what's gonna happen. Um, so no one knows what the right decision will be in terms of how history will remember it. You just kind of have to make the best decision for you, and just take the context of how well you know him and his character. Obviously, if you think it's someone you could see yourself marrying, then obviously, I think take the time to wait. But I would put a, kind of a time limit. Say 4 to 6 months, and at that point, kind of check back in with him and see if there's a potential to start something, or if there's not at that point, I think it's fair for you to move on. Um, I would say, just in general, based on your emotional attachment to him, I also don't think it'd be healthy for you to be dating people while waiting. So I think it might be an especially tough 4 to 6 months because you might not even be out there knowing, you kind of have this emotional attachment to this person. Um, that's the way I would do it, just because I don't think you'd want to be in a position where you're dating someone else and then he texts you back as like, I'm ready. And then you're like in this whole funk of like you're dating this other person, but you might secretly want, him more. And so that's kind of the way I would handle it. Um, but I do think you should have a time limit just because I don't want you to waste, you know, uh, months on end waiting for him only to find out later, you know, 3 months into the process of quote unquote healing, you started dating someone else. Um, and so I guess in that sense, because there's not a lot of control that you have on this situation, I wouldn't have a lot of expectation. Um, I think you should kind of emotionally um, just assume there'll be no contact, so you're not too emotionally invested. That's the way I would handle it. Obviously that answers the question if you feel like they've rushed into it. If the flip side of that is if you don't think they've rushed into dating, they took proper time. In this case, that 3 months was enough. You do think they're healed or whatever. I then think it comes down to, do they miss their ex and want to get back together with them? Have they not emotionally healed from a major incident like cheating? Or is it just kind of the emotions of possibly seriously dating that are bringing up the ex? I think communicating to them that they should reflect on these 3 points would be good. Um, I think if it ends up being the first point, then in terms of they kind of miss their ex and would be open to getting back together with them, I think you should move on at that point. For me, any thought of wanting to get back together with your ex is something I always advise people to stay away from. Um, I personally would only recommend people who kind of are, indifferent, i.e., not thinking about it or are against it. Um, I think if it's the second point that you know they haven't emotionally healed, from a incident like cheating. Um, in those cases, I actually don't think it's necessarily the move. You don't need to move on right, like that, because I don't think it's that they miss the person. I think that they're just trying to heal their self-esteem, um, and kind of make sure uh, that they're not doing things out of, just wanting to be loved and you being a rebound, and they're actually doing things because they love you. In which case, I really respect their honesty and trying not to deceive you and, string you along and act like they're ready to be, let someone into their life when they're really not. I think if it's the last point, kind of, you and dating you has brought up a lot of emotions of like, am I ready, for a serious relationship? I think, again, in this case, I wouldn't move on just because I think that's natural human behavior because their last reference point is their ex for these questions coming up. And I think that's something where you could work, you understand they're a human being and you understand that there's triggers and um, that will come up and that you'll be there to work with them. Again, this is a tough caveat because it gets into um, you know you just hope it's the ex is being brought up because the last time they felt this way about someone was for the ex, and not because these questions aren't being brought up because they miss their ex. Um, so in terms of final reflection, I would just say, obviously, the not over the ex has a negative connotation, because people are like, why is this person out here in the dating world? And I get that, and that's definitely fair to the people that go on these, um, you know, that are dating individuals that say that to them. At the same time, I'm not going to judge. Maybe he thought he was ready, but just realized through interacting with you that he isn't. And, overall, I do respect that he's honest about not stringing you along into a serious relationship, um, when he knows his mental's not there yet. And so, like I said, I think it's really just about communicating, um, and kind of having him, stop dating other people, stop the dating apps, kind of, heal, live in that, sucky period of just dealing with all the emotions of, a breakup and things like that. And then kind of seeing, what his headspace and reaction to that is, in terms of the whether he takes you up on that offer or rejects it. Again, like I said, if he rejects it, I would then move on. I don't think it's healthy for you to continue to see this person in a casual manner when it's clear that you maybe want more. But if he does take you up on it, like I said, wait for some time period, kind of limit your communication as much as possible. And then when that time period is over, kind of check back in, see where things are at. Um, and if at a certain time period you feel like, you've waited enough, move on, and, um, that's kind of where I stand. Let me know where you guys think. If there was any aspect of this you feel like I didn't answer, or if you have a different opinion than me, feel free to comment below, and happy to, um, extend the conversation or make a new follow up video in the future. Thanks, guys.